Line 6, who's on 6?
Hello?
Hello.
It's Paul McCartney.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
When I'm 64 altogether, when I'm 64 more time.
When Paul McCartney recorded When I'm 64, the Beatles song about growing up validated over a campfire at the age of 24, he famously looked decades ahead. The song was an accurate prophecy at the time, but when McCartney really got to that age and kept throwing his flawless hair in every direction, When I'm 64 turned into a humorous object lesson that showed that the adored Beatles had misjudged the potential of rock and roll. Ancient is forming, it may endure. The 81-year-old McCartney recently released Egypt Station, his latest studio album, a few days before he embarks on his most recent tour in Quebec City. Not only is McCartney not the only 81-year-old songwriter called Paul, whose records have had many songs released, but he's not the only established artist with ambitious goals. Paul Simon, who in Simon and Garfunkel's Old Friends envisioned the future sitting on a dusty park bench at the age of 82, also released a new album titled In the Blue Light. Similar like McCartney, he is getting ready to go on the road once more, this time before he calls it quits on touring. There isn't much more to say to persuade people of the general public's desire to see boomer idols while they were still active. It is possible that Desert Trip 2016, a mega concert of classic rock, may have brought in more money than the reported $160 million if it had happened after the passing of Chuck Berry, Tom Petty, and Aretha Franklin. Furthermore, during their individual paths to achieve that prosperous hero status, McCartney and Simon have more in common than just their ages and their names. Both were twice inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, once as solo artists and once as part of a group. Between the 1960s and the 2000s, both received at least one Grammy Award nomination for Album of the Year. Even more problematic, the two authored and appeared in semi-biographical movies in the early 1980s, One Trick Pony by Simon and Give My Regards to Broad Street by McCartney, which made it obvious that neither of them wanted to share the story. Both say no. But what's amazing about Egypt Station and In the Blue Light, particularly given that they were released on the same day, is how unique each late-stage pop artist is compared to one another and to their peers, their associates. Not even Paul McCartney's 2012 attempt at a Frank Loesser and Irving Berlin song, Kisses on the Bottom, can compare to the loving exploration of the great American songbook that Rod Stewart and Bob Dylan have given us. It's also not a throwback endeavor like the most recent Blue and Lonesome single from the Rolling Stones or one of Rick Rubin's straightforward productions for Neil Diamond or Johnny Cash. Rather, it appears that Simon and McCartney both want to move on, even if it involves reflecting on the past. The important thing to remember about Egypt Station is that McCartney collaborated extensively on a large portion of the record with hitmaker Greg Kurstin, who has produced hits for artists like Pink and Kelly Clarkson. The former member of the Beatles has already enlisted trendy collaborators. Songs from their 2013 album New, which included Mark Ronson and Paul Epworth, one of Adele's right-hand men, were produced by a number of them. In contrast, Egypt Station feels more imaginative and well thought out. Depending on your preferences, the fact that it's not a radio-ready turbo pop disc may either relieve or disappoint you. It was suggested that McCartney wished to check if his compositional and vocal prowess could hold up to the rigorous demands of working legend status by measuring it against the norms of contemporary record-making. Egypt Station is a consistently entertaining album featuring tighter quality control than any other McCartney release in recent memory. The song features jangly guitars, soaring piano passages, and crunchy vocal harmonies that float atop a bouncing beat while still hammering. The same moment. Of course, there are the highlights, such as the exhilarating tune Back to Brazil and the endearing song Happy With You, in which he compares his current situation to the difficult days after the Beatles broke up.